Welcome back into Rover Sports, and I'm here to be joined by a guest, and it's your second time on the show, so now you're a reoccurring guest, and it's Pigskin Pete. And Pigskin, how are you?
Good, man. Spence, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well, and you guys can watch Pigskin Pete. You know, he tees up a video. You try to do it every day, correct?
I try to do one every day. Sometimes it's more like 5 times a week, but yeah, I upload a video at least 5, 6 times a week.
So you're rocking the KB jersey. I got to know, for the holiday season, what jersey would you be leaning towards, new Panther player?
New Panther player, I'm going to go old school here because I don't have one, and he's been traded and he came back, is Julius Peppers. That's the one that's the one I want next.
The Tar Heel, Julius Peppers.
That's right.
I like that one. How about Steve Smith? You have him?
No, I don't have him. The reason I didn't get him is because he was like the best-selling jersey for like 100 years.
It's too cliche.
Yeah, so I actually bought this jersey like literally the first home game after Benjamin got drafted. I try to get ones people don't have, but
sure.
I mean, Steve Smith, all-time legend. Panthers great. No disrespect to him, but I'm not getting his jersey. No.
I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you a jersey that I think will be cool is Greg Olson. I still think he's underappreciated.
Oh, underappreciated? Maybe. I don't know. Not to Panthers fans, I don't think he is. I mean, there's never been a better tight end in Carolina's history, right? I mean, the guy's going to be a Hall of Famer, whether he wins a Super Bowl or not.
In the I'm talking about in the jersey sales.
Oh, yeah. I don't. You see a lot of his jerseys at the game, but the number one selling jersey by far, I mean, other than Newton, is Kuechly. And even calls him Mr. Panther, jokingly.
Yeah. No McCaffrey, not McCaffrey.
You know what? I haven't been to a Panthers game this year. This is the first year I haven't been to one in I don't know how long. I would imagine he's got a good selling jersey, but that'd be another one that I'd like to get. Yeah, for sure.
And it's a pretty cool setup. And we're here with Pigskin Pete, and you've been a Panther fan, I imagine, for a long time. And I'm just with talking about the jerseys, it brought me back to the years where Steve Smith and those guys were able to beat the St. Louis Rams. Like, I always remember the overtime play to Steve Smith against Mark Bolger and the Rams, and then you guys went into Philly and won that game thanks to some interceptions back in 2004.
Yeah. Steve Smith, Jake Delhomme, by the way. I mean, come on. Let's give Jake Delhomme some love here. The guy's where is he in? Texas or Oklahoma or somewhere on a cattle ranch? I mean,
he's not playing anymore. He's
Louisiana. Sorry. Yeah, he's somewhere raising horses right now. He's got like a horse farm. But yeah, Steve Smith, all-time great. I remember that game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Steve Smith made, I think it was like anybody who's watching who remembers this game, I'm sure Philly 500 will remember this game for sure. Steve Smith was the one that made, I think it was like a 3rd and 18 or a 3rd and 15 or something like that catch at the end of the game that led them to score to beat the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Do you remember the Eagles wide receivers that game dropping passes like Todd Pinkston and James Thrash?
I don't, because I don't remember drop passes from other teams. I'm certainly bound to remember drop passes from my own team. Another team drops a pass, then that's just bad luck for you. If my team drops a pass, then I'll probably harp on it for the next 10 years.
So you're a guy that's, cheered on Carolina, and Carolina is very young, kind of used to be an expansion franchise, the Carolina Panthers. And, you guys came close, to winning a Super Bowl. What is your kind of feel with Carolina? Yeah, you guys have been to 2 Super Bowls already. You're a young franchise. Are you starved for a Super Bowl? Or are you like, we're still a young franchise and it's not like we're the Vikings or the Eagles?
Well, no, I'm starved for a Super Bowl. Now, if you look at other expansion teams, whether it's the Texans, which is not really an expansion, but sort of just a relocation.
Jacksonville?
Yeah. Jacksonville's another one. As far as Jacksonville came in to the NFL the exact same year that Carolina did in 95. Now, Carolina's clearly had more success than Jacksonville has. So for that, I'm thankful. But getting to the Super Bowl in 2004 and losing by a field goal to the Patriots was absolutely painful. And then, of course, last year, or not last year, but the year before last year, going to Denver, playing Denver, and getting just absolutely shellacked after Carolina was 15-1 in the regular season. That was even more painful, because when you go 15-1 and you're like the most dominant team in the NFL, and then you just go get completely embarrassed by the Denver Broncos and can't score. I don't even remember what the score was. It was so painful.
Yeah.
It was pitiful, and that was definitely a bad day for Pigskin.
But I look back at the Super Bowls, and I think that the Patriots one's a lot more painful because of the way that Delhomme brought them back. And I always remember Muhammad in the second half and his catches, and maybe it was Keyshawn Johnson on that team, but Delhomme was like the best quarter he's ever played. And that Super Bowl, having Casey do that, was so painful, giving them that short field and everything, and you could just know it was going to happen.
It was. The difference for me, though, is that going into that Patriots Super Bowl, being the first Super Bowl for the Panthers and playing against the Patriots, I don't really think even hardcore Panthers fans actually expected to win that game. So the fact that they came close and it almost happened, at the last second, was surprising to us. But this last one, we thought we were going to win it. I mean, we were celebrating the Super Bowl victory before it even happened. And then it was bad.
I thought you guys had a great chance because I saw how old Peyton looked, and the game with I don't want to be I'm sorry to get all negative. I think it's just fun talking though. And it's even amazing for you guys to go 15-1. The Carolina Panthers, Cardinals NFC title game where you guys like intercepted Palmer, that might have been the greatest Panther day in history. I mean, I've never seen a more dominant performance in a championship game.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And as far as rubbing it into me, listen, you already know how big of a Clemson homer I am, and I am much more sensitive to Clemson and much more forgiving to Clemson as a football team than the Panthers. You're never going to meet a bigger Panther critic than me. I am absolutely not sensitive to it. I bag on the Panthers more than whoever hates the Panthers from another team, period. I mean, I am the biggest Panther hater and lover that there is. So
it's a complicated relationship. Maybe it's because the Clemson kids are younger, right? And these are professionals. You can get on them.
Well, I think that has something to do with it. I think that probably deep down in my heart, I care more about the Tigers than I do the Panthers. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you're right. It's kids, and growing up seeing the Tigers be so mediocre for so long that now that they're good, I'm oversensitive to it.
You're just so satisfied. Like the Deshaun Watson thing, like it does. You know what I mean? Like that buys you at least like 5-10 years of just like forgiveness, because you probably were like, if I win this game versus Alabama, nothing can get me down.
Yeah, I mean that pretty much solidified it for me. I mean, even if they were to lose this game in the Rose Bowl, I don't consider the season to be a loss, because nobody expected us to be here after last year with Watson leaving. So I'm really not going to be disappointed no matter what happens, and I really think that the future is still bright for them.
So Clemson was just beyond your wildest dreams that these things would be happening. You didn't even conceive this possibly happening.
Well, let's put it this way. So when they won their first national championship, I was 1 year old. So clearly I don't remember that. I became a hardcore Clemson fan when my sister went there in 1985. I was only 5 years old. And so basically from the time I could remember football up until –
Damn, you're 13 years younger than your sister.
Yeah, I'm 14 years younger than my sister. But so, basically from that time that I can remember football all the way up till about 2011 – Clemson was always considered a good team. Nothing great. Nobody really paid them any attention. They certainly weren't even in the top 25 every year, to being a top 5 team every year. And of course, in the past, 3 or 4 years, being in the top 10, national championship hunt every year, playoffs now. I couldn't have conceived of that. But once you get a taste of that, there really is no going back from that. So now it's something that you expect. And of course, these things don't last forever. It's all cyclical. But as long as you have a coach, whether it's Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, Urban Meyer, I mean, we can go down the list here of great coaches, then you're always going to expect to be great.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, Pigskin, maybe you can comment on this as a Giants fan, like since Eli won those two crazy Super Bowls, it's like I look, at the Philadelphia Eagles and they've never won, in about 40 years and they're just dying to have one. And then like Eli Manning can go and have like terrible games, terrible seasons, but I'll still support him almost blindlessly. And you've seen the Giants with Tom Coughlin. They would go 6-10. But no one would – it's just like very hard to get very angry. It's almost even harder when you experience the high of highs to be like as invested the next season or just to flip out because you want to be grateful for just accomplishing something great.
Exactly. And I can put that in perspective, even as a Panthers fan. I mean, you have teams like the Lions and the Eagles. I mean, these teams have been around for way longer than the Panthers and haven't experienced a championship. And as much as I don't like those teams, on a football level, I can completely sympathize with their fans, man. I mean, that's really got to be tough.
Once you win one, I really do think it changes. I really think you kind of calm down.
Yeah, just ask the Yankees and the Red Sox. They'll tell you about that.
Or the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Well, not so much the Yankees, man. They freaking win all the time. But now you got a guy in Cam Newton, and the Jake Delhomme thing is such a crazy career, right? Because did Delhomme come back? Like did he leave and then they had the 12-4 season where then the Delhomme game happened and that was his last game as a Panther? I mean, when did that Arizona season happen with Delhomme? And didn't he leave to go to Cleveland and other stops before that magical season?
You mean before they went to the Super Bowl?
No, I'm talking about like in 2011 when he out of nowhere, he had a tremendous year. And then, of course, everyone just always remembers the Delhomme game against the Arizona Cardinals. That's a lasting memory of that. Yeah,
he was. He went to Cleveland and was sort of a mediocre quarterback there. Came back for 1 year. I don't even know. You know what? I'm not even sure if he started that season that he came back. I think he came and started later in the season, whether due to injury from their starter or whatever, and just by happenstance being in that game.
Right.
I never really expected him to do it. I mean, that was a shock to everybody what he did.
What do you think? Now we're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers and last week. And you were a guy that was honestly, you were doubting the Carolina Panthers and doubting Mike Shula and this offense. And what did you see from Shula and Cam last week?
But I never know what to get with him. That's the problem, man. I like you said, I am a doubter. I did not expect to see them show up the way they did against Minnesota. Now, Carolina, in their defense, is a different team at home than they are on the road. Now, Minnesota came in, the hottest team in the league right now. Well, not the hottest, but, one of the hottest.
I think so,
yeah. But they are just so inconsistent that it just drives me completely nuts. I don't like the play calling. Now, here's the other thing is with during the off – let's go back a little bit to the off season. Or even the early part of the season. So all the moves they made. So they draft McCaffrey. What is it? 4 weeks into the season, they trade away Kelvin Benjamin. They bring back Burson. They go get Shepard, who is a special teams guy, who is actually an unsigned free agent signed by the Eagles. And I think he played somewhere else and then came to the Panthers. But all these no-name guys, they look like they were filling up their offense with speed. And if you watch the media, they had you all believing they're changing the offense so that Cam Newton can dump off the ball quickly to speed guys, right? And they're not going to run him as much. They're abandoning the quintessential Carolina Panthers power run game, and they're going to go to this spread offense with speed guys. Well, it turns out that's not what they've done at all, at least of late in the season. They've gone back to their old ways. They haven't really changed anything at all other than their roster. It's still the Jonathan Stewart, Cam Newton power run show. And, Greg Olson being out was a big blow to them this year. They've still managed to win a lot of games without him. But that was really their number one weapon on offense as far as the passing game goes for, I don't know, the past 5 years or so. So the way that they played this year, they go up to New England, light them up, right? blown out by the Saints twice. You can just go down the list of these bad showings from that offense. I don't think they know how to use McCaffrey right. I still don't like the way they use him. He's a dangerous guy, but I just don't know what I'm going to get from them.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall some of the games. What was it? Oakland. Who did the Panthers play in the AFC this year? Like what conference?
Yeah, so they played Oakland,
Chargers. Okay.
Oh, no, not the Chargers. I can't even think.
I know exactly what you're saying because I had Cam Newton in fantasy, and like every game that I played Cam Newton, he wouldn't do anything. And then the Detroit game would happen, and then the Patriots, like we talked about, would happen. He'd have like 2 consecutive weeks, and it was very frustrating. You know?
It's always frustrating with them. And that's why I don't get hooked up, because at this time of the year, they have a great record. And I mean, the NFC South, man, let's talk about the NFC South for a second. Look at you might have a 10-win team that doesn't make the playoffs in that division.
It's really a great division. Atlanta stormed back, and
right.
I think all these teams are really, really dangerous in the South. And the entire conference, I mean, you have Seattle, you have the South, right? And then, Dallas is going to probably get left out. And then that brings us right to this team, and your game again is the game of the week because Aaron Rodgers is going to play this week.
And just like the Panthers' luck has it, Aaron Rodgers has been out with a broken collarbone, and the week he comes back is against the Carolina Panthers. Yeah. And there's all this speculation that should they play him, should not they. Aaron Rodgers is going to play if he can play. I mean, come on. The guy's getting paid how many? $25 million a year? Of course the guy's going to play.
And it's an opportunity to salvage the season again.
Yeah, and I don't expect them to come out with Aaron Rodgers at QB and, do some kind of, weak game plan where they're just going to dump it off and it's going to be conservative. No, he's going to come out there slinging the ball. And I don't look at it as him coming off an injury. I look at it as him getting a 8-week rest or whatever it's been. The guy's going to be smoking, and he's probably scared. And I'm looking for him to light that Carolina Panther defense up, man. I hate to say it.
No excuses for Aaron. I totally can understand that. Now, so the game, is it in Carolina or Lambeau Field?
It's in Green Bay, I think.
Oof.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, because you guys play pretty well at home.
Yeah.
You guys have been playing well at home. I want to ask you this question. You got the Kelvin Benjamin jersey on, but I kind of have this theory in the NFL that sometimes like leading wide receivers, whether it be Sammy Watkins or Kelvin Benjamin, somehow the quarterback performs better when there's not a need to like force feed them the ball. And it just seems like when they went 15-1, it was Cam to Funchess to Ted Ginn. It was Cam's guys. Like Cam was completely running the show, not a number one guy. Is there any truth to that about Kelvin Benjamin and like having to force the ball to him and now it's kind of opening things up? Because Funchess has been playing a lot better.
I think there is some truth to that. And that was even the knock when Steve Smith was there, late in his career when Cam Newton was still younger, that he was
even had fights, those two guys.
Yeah, and then when Steve Smith got traded to the Ravens, you saw a lot more spreading around. And you are seeing that this year. Ever since Benjamin's not there, he's hitting way more different receivers, guys you never heard of before. There definitely is some truth to that. Whether or not it's benefiting them in any way, I don't know that. I mean, I think that Kelvin Benjamin was a huge red zone threat. Their number one red zone threat, especially without Olson being in the lineup, being hurt. But actually, I was a lot more critical when they did trade him. Since he's been gone, I'm a little bit, more content with it now because he is still, succeeding in the passing game without him there.
Sure. Absolutely. We're talking here with Pigskin Pete. And I mean, we were texting during that game. That game must have felt for you like a 4-hour roller coaster ride. I mean, the defense, like I honestly saw with 8 minutes left, I'm like, this is still so much time because Minnesota Case threw the ball a lot, but they were moving the ball in that defense, filing, dropping passes in the end zone. So just take us through that emotions of that fourth quarter. Could you see the Vikings coming back? And I mean, the cornerbacks, they didn't play well in that fourth quarter there.
Yeah, as soon as the Vikings started coming back, I'm like, okay, here we go again. Now that goal line stand that Carolina made, after that last turnover, that's vintage Carolina. I mean, we're sitting here talking about the offense so much, but Carolina's team has always been built on defense. And with Kuechly and Davis back there, and bringing back Munnerlyn, and you got Peppers on the edge there coming back, making a final stand. These guys, that's what this team is really all about. All the focus gets put on Cam Newton and this offense, but Carolina Panthers football has always been about defense. So when they made that goal line stop, I pretty much had a pretty good feeling about that game at that point. But, the minutes leading up to that goal line stand, I was going completely out of my mind.
I'm sure. And when really talking about the NFC, I have more confidence in Cam on the road than Matt Ryan. Like, I've seen Matt Ryan on the road in the cold. He just doesn't play well outside of that dome. So if you're looking at, I think Drew Brees can operate outside of the dome. I'm not sure Jared Goff can play in the cold. So Carolina is one of those teams. But for you guys to really separate yourselves, especially with Carson Wentz going out and now Nick Foles is in, Kawan Short needs to, take over games. You have this Vernon Butler. You guys have all these names. And I just kind of need to see that production from this defensive line. I mean, look, Tuilei, these are Pro Bowl names. And if you guys are going to go into the playoffs, that D-line, right, has to be the focal point of this team, getting to the passer.
It absolutely does. When you look at the quarterbacks that they're going to have to go up against, whether it's Drew Brees or Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or, well, I guess at this point, Nick Foles, or, I mean, just you can go down the line of all these potential NFC quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford.
Prescott.
Yeah, Prescott. These are all guys that you're going to have to get after. So you make a great point. Tuilei, I mean, he's another throwback, man. This is a guy that nobody knows, right? Unless you're an absolute, hardcore NFL fan or a Panther fan.
Unless you're a Utah guy. If you know him once, you're going to know him. Like a Utah guy.
Absolute stud for the Panthers ever since he's been there. He gets not enough love. For sure.
Kawan Short's a name I think people know.
Yeah, Kawan Short's one that people know. But Tuilei is not for some reason. If you go and ask, just some random guy on the street who's wearing an NFL jersey who Star Tuilei is, I'm not going to know who he is, man. Come on.
Yeah, I get that. They'll know Mike Tolbert a lot more,
Yeah, exactly.
I think that the guy, though, we were talking about, Burson, is one of the funniest NFL players because he's always just in the team photos, and you're like, does this guy play? Is he a special teams guy,
So I got a name, and I'm going to brand this. So how they call Andy Dalton the Red Rifle or whatever it is? I call Burson the BB. His initials are BB. Because the guy, like those old Red Ryder BB guns, you can only put one BB in at a time, and you shoot it. This guy is good for one great catch every game. And it's like the only catch he makes. But it's always great. It's never like, some half-ass catch. It's always some big play, game-changing play. I used to hate on the guy, but I actually kind of like the guy now. When they signed him back, I was like, oh, great, Burson's coming back. But the last few weeks, man, he's making great plays. He's BB.
It's kind of like guys like Hank Baskett or like these like Freddie Mitchell type guys that just make like a one great play and you just have that lasting memory of those guys and you're just not hard on them at all.
Yeah, I mean every game he shows up for one great play, and if that's what they're paying him for, I can deal with it as long as it's a great play.
So Pigskin Pete, we're going to talk about probably Clemson leading up to these games. We can even do bowl game previews with you. Everybody should follow Pigskin Pete. Before I let you run, I want to get your prediction for some of these games for the NFC. I want to get the Carolina Panther prediction, and then I want to get who wins the NFC West. Is it Seattle or the LA Rams?
So where do you want to start here?
Let's go to NFC West first.
NFC West, I'm picking the Rams. The reason is because just like the Panthers, Seattle's too inconsistent. They have, well, not like the Panthers, but they have too many injuries going on. Seattle's in this weird spot where they don't really have much of an identity like they used to have. There really is no Legion of Boom anymore with the injuries. They seem to be fighting a lot on the sidelines. There just seems to be a lot of chaos going on there. And the LA Rams.
Pete Carroll can't control his players that well anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he's all about individuality, but he's got too many alpha dogs on that team. The LA Rams, they're the new sexy thing, right? Jared Goff, throwing it all over the field. The guy looks like a stud. And it's hard to pick against a team. You know what? The Rams are actually a lot like the Seahawks were 5 years ago. They're the sexy, up-and-coming team that has all the swag. And so I'm going to go with the Rams there over the veteran Seahawks.
Wow.
Now, what was the other question? The NFC picks. And
let's go right to Carolina, Green Bay. You think you guys are going to go in there and get a win?
I do. I'm actually, against my better judgment, going to pick my own team to win this game. Imagine that. I think that Carolina run game in that situation is going to be able to sustain. I'm not sold on Green Bay's defense either. And now, even if Aaron Rodgers is back, Green Bay's defense is completely suspect. And I think that Carolina can control the ball, run the ball. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game because Carolina's defense is too good to allow a ton of points, no matter where they're playing. And I think that Carolina can put up a lot of points against Green Bay's defense.
Yeah, this is a huge game. This would really be an on-the-map game, backing up the win last week and going into Lambeau. I mean, you guys would cement yourselves, really in the NFC. It's really a threat. And believe it or not, I look at Atlanta going to Tampa Bay, and they could get tripped up in a primetime game. That's like Tampa's Super Bowl. So there's a lot of crazy games on their schedule in the NFC.
Yeah, so they got Green Bay and then Atlanta and Tampa Bay left, like you said. Tampa Bay is one of these teams, like you said, man, they could upset anybody. They have nothing to lose. They're one of these teams that just wants to ruin somebody's season. So I'm not sleeping on Tampa Bay against Carolina, and I really do hope they beat Atlanta, obviously.
And Dirk Cutter's probably gone too.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's already what time is it? Yeah, he's already gone. I think he already left.
He already packed his bags.
Yeah, he's gone already.
He already packed his bags, man. Last pick I want to get from you is been having this argument. I think Kansas City's going to beat the Chargers in Arrowhead Stadium. I'm not buying all this Charger love.
Yeah, if you look at Chargers' schedule, have they even beat a team with a winning record all year? I don't think they have.
Redskins, Bills,
Yeah, they haven't beat anybody or they might be one team with a winning record. They're the hot team right now as far as wins, but they haven't really beat anybody that's any good. Let's be honest. I'm with you. I think that in this game that Kansas City is going to have too much offense for them. Phillip Rivers, listen, God love the guy. He's a great quarterback. I mean, one of my all-time favorites to watch. Who doesn't like watching Phillip Rivers play football?
I agree.
He's almost done. His heart's not even in LA. It's in San Diego. He made that known before he went there. I don't think that San Diego is going to be a real threat into the playoffs.
I still think Phil Rivers, though, is I still think that his heart's in it. I just don't know if they probably still will get into the playoffs, with a wild card. And I just don't see that. I just see Kansas City actually as dangerous. I see the Ravens as dangerous.
The Ravens are the Ravens are definitely dangerous. Kansas City just has too much weapons. I mean, they are completely loaded on offense. Their defense was a little suspect earlier in the year, but I'm with you. I think that Kansas City gets back on track. They lost those games in a row. I don't think you just completely dismiss them because of that. What they did earlier in the year was not some sort of fluke. I mean, they were playing great football, and it's just a matter of them getting back to that. And Andy Reid's a great coach. So
you know what? The NFL is just peak at the right time, and you see all these teams start out unbelievable and then they can't peak at the right time. And even New England, they just seem like a team that's going to host the AFC title game and get trounced by someone by Baltimore. I could totally just see it now.
Well, I would love to see that, but you're right. First of all, nobody's ever going to count out New England, but they have been so decimated with injuries that it's hard to believe that with all the people they've lost for the season that they can really take it all away. And Baltimore's, like you said, one of those teams that was started at the bottom is just getting better. Patriots seem to be starting at the top, getting worse. Right. So I believe that Baltimore, they might be the dark horse in that AFC that could really disrupt some things.
It's the process of momentum. And Pigskin Pete, man, thanks so much for joining the podcast. Always love chatting ball with you, man. Any week you want to pop in and talk on Rover Sports, you're welcome to.
Absolutely, man. I'd love to anytime.
All righty, Pigskin Pete, thanks again.